Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanalie Wijesinghe. We're going to be talking about relationships and retention today. Before we get started, I would love to just see a quick show of hands. Who has heard of Boulevard before this? Anyone? Yeah? One person? Amazing. That makes me excited because then I get to talk a lot more about Boulevard. So that's the company I'm here with today. We're going to take a deeper look at exactly what Boulevard provides, along with talking about relationships and retention and a bit of technology through in our space, whether it be a salon, barbershop, whatever it may be, just looking at a fresher version of what's out there for our industry now. As I said, my name's Shanalie Wijesinghe, and I actually head up the education team at Boulevard. So it is a tech company, but I've never worked in tech before. I used to manage multi-location hair salons. I started off as the front desk through college and then eventually dropped out of college because I realized you can make a lot more money doing hair and being in salons. So I was like, why not do that and have way less student debt, right? So it was a no-brainer for me making that switch. Once I started doing that, I realized I had a knack for the business side of things. I really connect well with people. I love being everyone's cheerleader and helping them grow and move on to the next level. So I spent almost 15 years of my career doing that. So today what I'm going to be sharing is a little bit of information that I've learned along the way, what my team has learned, and what even some of our customers have been lovely enough to share with us. So now I'm bringing it all to you. So a quick look at Boulevard. So our team consists of a lot of different people, and we tend to hire from the industry itself. So all the way to our product team, so that's, I would say, more of the technical side of the product itself. We have someone like Rachel, who's actually a nail salon owner and also informing how we build this product. So realistically, we are, part of the industry is the best way to look at it. We are building tools that help people just like us. So this is why it's become so meaningful to individuals like myself, like Rachel, Jocelyn, everyone you see on this slide here. So we really look to our customers to help us understand the needs of the industry and how we can better support you. Because reality is we're here to support this industry and make it about you and less about us and the workarounds that you might have to do on another tech system you might not see with us. So things like booking appointments back to back, accounting for processing times, for finishing times, all of that good stuff we can do. Myself, for example, I'm a 2-hour haircut. Most people cut hair in about an hour. The system's smart enough to recognize that, where I need a 2-hour setting no matter what, and everyone else is 1 hour. So there are tools that are designed to work for you versus you having to finagle your schedule and zhuzh it every time something comes in. So as we go through this, we'll talk a little deeper on the actual technology itself, but we're going to kick it off with some of the relationship messaging first. So first up, we're going to be talking about some connected cultures and one-on-ones. It seems like a really simple solution to be connecting with each of your team members on a one-to-one level, but you'd be surprised how many people actually don't get this within the business that they're either an employee of or they're actually managing. From there, we're going to talk about how technology can support your business and actually feed back into that connected culture. I think a lot of people think about technology putting space in between people, right? We think about how we are on our phones versus how we are in front of someone, right? Everyone's a lot tougher behind the iPhone, Twitter fingers, we've all heard it, but it doesn't always have to be like that. So from there, we're going to do a quick little breakout discussion. It's really an opportunity for me to be able to chat with each of you and get to know you and answer some questions as well. Sound good? I like for these to be conversational, so if you have a question, stop me, ask me. Go ahead and jump in. I'm not gonna do a Q&A at the end. I like I said, like to keep it moving, so feel free to interrupt me at any moment and get started. All right. So let's start out by talking about this. Retaining bright individuals is a challenge in our industry. Now, I've seen a lot of folks talk about how like COVID did this and nobody wants to work anymore and all of that great stuff. But in my experience, I've learned that people leave businesses because of the leadership. And it hardly is ever because they don't want to work, because who leaves a job and then never works again? They end up working somewhere else. So they didn't want to work for you. right? That's actually what that means. So oftentimes people show up to a business because of the culture. They see the brand, they see the people, they want to be like them, they want to look like them, and most of the time they end up leaving because of how they've been managed. The culture isn't connected. They're not connecting with managers. They don't understand how they grow. They might have goals, but they have no clue how to actually achieve them, and there isn't a game plan or really someone coaching them in how to get there. And that's the true role of a manager, right? We are player coaches. We need to be connecting with the people on our teams to be able to do that. So like I said, it was a long time ago. I think it was like back in 2010 when I saw someone go to lunch and like never come back. And that happens all the time, right? We see that. I used to tell myself if I had someone on the front desk for 3 to 6 months, like everyone would be really happy with me, right? But that's barely any time. And I was exhausting myself trying to, one, find these people, train them, and then finally feel safe enough to walk away from the front desk knowing that they weren't gonna mess up the books. So we put in a lot of effort to do this, and it's an emotional roller coaster for even our service providers, because we've all seen it where they're like, I don't want the new girl touching my books, right? It happens because we want to make sure we are running the most productive schedule, and there is a learning curve with all of that. So the only way that we can achieve this is with transparency and real mentorship. And I'm not talking about like, hey, we're meeting quarterly and we're gonna discuss your numbers and I'm gonna give you like a quick little pep talk on how to do that. This means I'm connecting with people as often as weekly. So even if it's like a 15-minute, like, hey, how you doing? What's going on in your life? It's incredibly important that it starts with a conversation. So I often get asked like, oh, how do you make someone into a 6-figure hairdresser? How do you get to 500,000 in a year? I can show you how to do all of that, but if I don't know how you operate as a person, what makes you tick, and how you are motivated, I'm not gonna be able to teach you any of that. I also need to learn how you learn. Are you a visual person? Do I need to show you your numbers on your graph so you understand how you're trending? Or are you just like an easy numbers driven person where I can give it to you plain and simple, right? Am I gonna really have to let you go through the process? Are you the type of learner that has to fail first before you learn something from it? There is a deeper level of the soft skills that we have to dig into when managing people. Because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a personal life and a professional life. You have one person. And I make this example because if I'm shoplifting and doing crazy stuff outside of the salon, do you really think I'm not gonna steal from your front desk or your register? Right? I'm one person. Those characteristics go with me wherever, whenever. This is who I am. So to think that people can shut things on and off is a mistake. So you really have to get to know them on both a professional and personal level to really understand how to mentor them and potentially let them grow. And most importantly, this is how your business is going to grow. So a big thing I've learned to do is communicate on their level. I mentioned using things like visuals to help people understand. Also being able to understand what makes them tick. If I know someone isn't so motivated by hitting goals, but they want to go to Cabo this summer, I can easily help them build goals towards getting to the money they need. And through that, by proxy, I'm helping my business make more money, because the more money they make, the more money we make, right? So some tools I've used in my communication. Add 100 more in service in revenue each week. I can't even say this because it's like a mouthful, right? Service providers, they don't operate in this way. This doesn't make sense to them. But I can easily say, book 2 more haircuts each week, and that makes sense. You do 8 haircuts in a day, can you do 10? Simple as that. They can count 10 haircuts on their book, right? So breaking it down to a very simple level. I'm actually going to share some tools with you for a one-on-one document and also a template to look at time versus money. And the importance of this template is it will give you some visual graphs. So I use this to help service providers understand what their most valuable service is and how much money they're making on it and what type of time they're spending on it. So folks were able to see like, hey, I spend only a quarter of my time doing partial highlights, but it makes up half of my money. I spend half my time doing haircuts, but it only makes up a quarter of my money. I should probably do more partial highlights, Maybe every haircut can have some highlights thrown onto it. So it's an opportunity for someone to visually see how they're spending their time to better understand productivity. So it's really important that we get creative with the tools that we're putting in front of everyone. And we're empowering them through communication. So years ago, I was a new manager, and I got thrown in because I was really busy on the front desk and I was really good at hitting sales. If you called in for a blow dry, you were like out with like a base and a haircut, treatment, all the things. I was that person. So of course management, they were like, you have to be the next manager here. But like many salons, we don't really train our managers in how to manage. And I was like 23 at the time, and I was managing people old enough to be my parents, right? So the communication there, I really had to learn quickly of like, okay, how are they gonna buy in to the things I'm saying, and how do I empower them in a way? We've all been in situations where maybe someone didn't do what they were supposed to do. The manager got a little heated, maybe yelled at them, and maybe this person cried and something of a drama unfolded, right? What happened there was a situation that we needed to learn from, and this person's now crying and unable to actually fulfill the job that they already made a mistake doing. So the dramas are actually really unproductive. So when I'm actually communicating with people and trying to coach them to something better, I figure out how to put this to them where they can actually grow from it. I can tell someone, like, when you look down at the ground and you're talking to me, like, imagine if I did the presentation like this, you guys would probably like leave halfway through and think I'm crazy, right? But I could say like, oh, you look like you lack confidence, or you don't seem powerful, you don't seem like you know what you're doing. Or I can tell someone, when you make eye contact with me when you're speaking, I feel like you're so confident. I feel like you're so powerful and you should do more of that. That's what your clients need to see. I'm telling them the exact same thing, right? But in the second way, I'm empowering them, where I'm highlighting what's great about what they do and asking for more of it. Oftentimes we tell people what's wrong. It's so easy to be like, oh no, that's ugly, or no, that's not right, or this, that, and that, but it's much harder to tell people what's actually correct, right? This is what looks good. This is what's beautiful. This is what we're trying to get towards. So it's important that you explain the impact and the behaviors of like, hey, when you made this mistake, X, Y, and Z happened, and that's okay. We're gonna do A, B, and C to move forward from here. Right? We discuss the impact, we discuss the behaviors that came out of it, and then we talk about a path forward. Here's what we're gonna do next. Every one of those feedback sessions ends with that, especially if it's the tough feedback. We have to have a path forward every single time. Any questions so far, team? How are we doing?
You're awesome.
Thank you. Okay, so creating meaningful connections with your team actually is like the fun part, to be honest with you, right? You actually get to know these people, figure out what makes them tick, who's funny, who's really exciting, who's kind of a daredevil on the weekends. I remember I had someone who was always like hang gliding and doing all these crazy things. I was like, please just come back to work in one piece. That would be so annoying if you didn't, right? So you get to know what actually makes these folks tick and what's exciting to them. So creating the meaningful connection starts with that one-on-one that I mentioned. And as you start to roll through these and you do them more often, they become really light, right? If we're dealing with things that are happening, like let's say someone made a mistake, we addressed it right away, we had a plan forward, the one-on-ones actually end up becoming pretty light, especially if you're correcting what needs to be corrected as it's happening. Don't let problems go on for too long. I don't wait till someone's one-on-one to pull them aside if something's gone wrong with their work. Right? If there is an issue, like I'm addressing the issue right away, let's connect, let's figure out as a team how we get better from this. So don't feel like you have to wait till the one-on-one to give them that feedback and things like that. Call on people as you need to. It's really important you don't let those things go on for too long, because let's say someone made an error with the client, a conversation didn't go so well with another staff member. The longer you let that go on, the harder it is to correct, because it's been too much time. The sooner it happens, it's fresh on everyone's mind, they know exactly what's happening, and right away they know, hey, I can't for a second get away with that kind of behavior, because it'll be corrected every time. Dealing with that kind of stuff, especially as a manager with everything we're dealing with, it's tough. I know that. It's a lot of time. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy from all of us. But if we don't address it, unfortunately, it snowballs into a much bigger problem than addressing it right away.
So a framework that I often use in my one-on-ones is breaking this down into 4 pillars. So this is one of those docs I'm going to be giving you with a bunch of questions and some great tips on how to use it. We focus on personal, performance, support, and development. So in every one-on-one that I have, we are hitting these areas. And you'll laugh when you see some of these questions. Like the first one is, how's life outside of work? Right? Like I hope you're asking people that anyway, right? But those are some easy questions that will let some of the conversations naturally develop. I bring this type of stuff up because it's important that we're supporting our team members in the right way. I once worked with someone who hit their numbers all the time, was really lovely, was an educator in our salon, all of that great stuff, and she went through a really terrible divorce that was an extremely emotional experience for her. In that time, she wasn't hitting her numbers, she wasn't educating, she wasn't doing all the things that she always did. Had I not known what she was going through, any typical manager would call her up on that and say, hey, what's going on here? Your numbers aren't doing good. What's going on with you? This isn't like you. But because I knew what she was going through, I was able to send her flowers. I was able to give her a hug when she needed and actually listen to the things that she was going through. And eventually she got through that and her numbers went back to that. But in moments like that, that's when we have someone quit, right? Where I'm going through an extremely emotional experience in my personal life, and right now you're hounding me about how many haircuts I'm doing. At the end of the day, you guys, it's hair. We're doing hair, we're doing nails, we're doing skin. It doesn't come before like our personal health, our mental health, our families. It simply does not. So, and we have to remember that even if we're like an owner, we want people to be as bought in as the owner. It's never gonna happen, you guys. You are the owner. It's your business. You know, it's never going to be like that. You have to understand that you can connect with them on a deeper level where they can be bought into your culture and really appreciate your leadership. And that's what's going to keep them there. So again, I'll be sharing this with you in a QR code here in just a second. So doing my research here, I've learned that across all of our industries that many different people, actually 65% of employees would like to get more feedback than they get. I hear this all the time. I actually have folks even who work at different companies that reach out to me to have me review their work and different things like that because they would like to get feedback where they can. It's really important that we get that perspective, especially from our management and ownership. This allows us to understand where we're going, what we're doing, if we're making sense. Everyone wants to know what their path forward is, and most people like to get that good job from especially their manager. So here you go for that QR code. Feel free to grab that. That's where you'll be able to get not only that one-on-one doc, but also the template that includes the time versus money. It doesn't matter what system you're using. You don't need to be using Boulevard. It'll be a template that you can manually pop in your numbers in there and actually take a look at that. So, talking a little bit about technology now. The self-care industry really needed a new approach a long time ago. Back when I first started my career 15 years ago or so, I was actually using a pen and paper. I had a big old calendar and a cordless phone that I would like put on my hip, and I thought it was so cool. Right? And I would literally be like outside in the parking lot still with the phone. So, you know, we had humble beginnings, right? And I would say we knew our books really well, and it was all fine to do everything over phone. But slowly but surely, like everyone kind of developed around us. We got social media and all of that good stuff, but a lot of the technology in our space was still very outdated. It didn't really operate in the way that we did things. Like nothing out there was booking appointments back to back, or filling our gaps in our day, or accounting for processing times, or putting something in for 30/30 or anything like that. It just didn't happen, right? So I was really excited, you know, when I learned about companies like Boulevard that actually started to pay attention to our industry and what they're doing. And one thing I found in working in today's workforce, they're completely supported by technology. In 5 minutes, I could have like smoothies here for all of us, right? We could all grab cars, we can double tap to show that we've liked something. I can share a post from someone in Greece right now with like everyone in the room within like 2 minutes if I really needed to. And that's what we're used to, that's our norm. But then you get into our industry and it's like, what, I can't like see everything I need to see on my phone, or someone can't book at midnight if they needed to, right? There was all of these like limitations around technology for our industry. And so technology has really evolved for self-care businesses, especially I would say in like the last 10 years. So if you are still using a solution that's like driving you crazy, you are still handling all of your appointments on your own, everyone's texting you directly, you're handling things through DMs, and you don't have a way to book directly off Instagram, technology isn't really working for you at this point. You know, you need to be able to put some tools into place that will actually automate certain parts of your day so you can actually be available for the people, because your time is better spent actually consulting a client versus trying to schedule them. You want to make sure you're handling their service correctly. You want to make sure you're giving them the most productive appointment possible. Like, you should be doing what you do, and you should let technology handle all the in-between there. So if you remember, this is how we used to get to know businesses. We would look for like ads, we would see, you know, something in a newspaper, a magazine, whatever it was. And this is more like how we get to know businesses today. If someone sends me a recommendation, the first thing I do is look for them on Instagram or Yelp to see how they're tracking, see who likes them, see the type of work they do. These are completely free websites that anyone can use. You have now a portfolio of your work. You can use this for recruitment. You can use this for new clientele. It's by far one of the most lucrative tools out there. I've worked a majority of my career with hairdressers that make over 6 figures. Some of them even upwards of 400,000 to 500,000. And 92% of new clients would actually come in from Instagram alone. So you can definitely build a business just using even one of these tools here. Now, here's a quick look of how we used to book appointments, right? So I mentioned that big paper calendar. Some of you in here will probably remember these days. And phones, and I had to sneak away to make that call. I've been telling everyone, I've been complaining about this. I need to make an appointment for a little wrist doctor. I have a little wrist problem going on. And it's been a nightmare to get an appointment because every time I'm done with work, the business is actually closed and they don't take any online bookings. So once I finally got an appointment, even though I probably should go in right away, I gotta wait till like mid-November to do that because that's just how it worked out. Now, that's a doctor's appointment that I can't skip, but I sure can skip a hair appointment or a waxing appointment, can't I? Or go somewhere else way faster that can actually take my appointment. And that's a reality our businesses face. If we aren't able to like really close that deal in that moment and get that appointment booked, chances are we'll actually lose that new client, or they'll be booked somewhere else, because when we get in that moment of like, ooh, I want to change, I want to make it happen, we need to be able to handle it right in that moment. Otherwise, it's a fleeting thought and we're most likely not going to come back to it. So it's really important that we're capturing those. So here's a view of how we can book appointments today. So this is just a quick view of some of the tools with Boulevard here. You can stay on your website, have a really clean visual, offer add-ons. You can send a text message if you want. You can book through Instagram, through Facebook, all of that great stuff. So there's way more tools to be able to support someone who's building their career now. Let some technology actually work for you in this space versus you trying to hustle it up all on your own. And if you aren't doing things like, you know, Instagram ads and Yelp ads, there's an awesome opportunity there for you as well. A lot of tools, especially like Yelp and Instagram, will actually give you money, free money, to actually try and run ads. So you can start off like with an Instagram profile and they'll give you, I think, about like $10 here and there to start out. And you can also set budgets around that. If you don't want to spend more than $30 on an ad campaign, it's going to shut off after that $30. So there's a lot of opportunity here, especially for folks that are just starting out, just starting to build their career and actually need to start marketing themselves to a new audience. So again, social media is like everything. I know there's a couple social media classes going on here today. If you can catch them, you definitely should. Now, most importantly, technology gives you the gift of time. So when I've had the discussions, especially about the connected cultures and having one-on-ones on a weekly basis, the first thing managers tell me is, I don't have the time for that. Like, how am I gonna do all that with everything I'm doing? My payroll takes 2 days and this, that, and that. No one's payroll should take 2 days. I work with businesses that have like 400 employees that can do their payroll in less than a day because of technology. If you are struggling within your business to do some day-to-day operations, running reports, things are taking way too long for you to understand things like your profitability, your cancellation rates, all that kind of stuff, it's really important that you start to look for tools that will actually start serving you there. Now, as I mentioned before, Boulevard is the first and only client experience platform that was made for the self-care industry. And we did this not only by hiring people from the businesses themselves, but also by sitting behind that front desk. Our co-founders actually went in there, actually worked through a business, did all the bookings themselves. They said it was one of the hardest jobs they ever had because these guys are engineers, of course, and they hung up on a lot of clients in the process of trying to book appointments. So it's like, welcome to our world. And this is how Boulevard was born. And much like me trying to make that doctor's appointment, one of our co-founders was struggling to make a haircut appointment and looked more and more terrible every day because he could not make that appointment before he got off work. He was too busy. So born was Boulevard. Now, one thing that we support our customers in are in all of these touch points and beyond. One thing I love about this company is our service level. So we actually handle our customers exactly how you handle your clients. We have 5-minute response times. So that means in 5 minutes, someone will message back letting you know what's going on. If you have a question, if you forgot how to do something, we're completely there for you because we understand you might most likely have a client standing in front of you and you're in a little bit of a 911 if you're reaching out to us. So we understand what it's like to be in these high pressured situations. So you'll notice from booking to preparing for the appointment, welcoming in your client, to the actual service, finally the send-off, and nurturing them to get them back into the business. We're completely there to support you from start to finish. Most importantly, it's not about us at any point in the day. It's very much about you, and your branding is across all of this. So if you start to look at our customers, you'll start to see some similarities, but most of them are branded completely to them. It's almost sometimes difficult to notice us in the process, and that's exactly how we want it. It's definitely about our customers, and we love them dearly. So I would love for everyone to experience technology that's actually made for them. If you're still doing things on a calendar that isn't made for the self-care industry, if you're using something that maybe also works with fitness classes, it might not be the best fit for you. And you should definitely start to look for tools that are made for the industry itself so they can better support you. Now we're gonna do a quick little discussion. You can work in with a partner or a small group, and we're just gonna discuss how can technology create a better client and employee experience for your business, and then go ahead and identify 3 key changes you plan to implement within your business. So I'm gonna give you roughly about like 5-6 minutes to do that. I would absolutely love to hear from you. So were there any cool takeaways in your discussions, any questions, anything that we can discuss before we jump into the next portion? Yeah.
Does the technology also provide support to the managers for their one-on-ones?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So we do have an education team at Boulevard where we actually work directly with the customers, and we go, I like to call it like this like gray area, right? Where it's not necessarily training on the platform, and it's not necessarily like, hey, how do I like check out? But you just need overall support in running the business. We do that all the time. We actually act as a sounding board to even some ideas. So we had a customer that was like playing around with some promotions, and they're like, what sounds better? What do you think about this email, that email? So we're there to support everyone in those situations too. We actually love doing that stuff. I would say that's like our favorite portion. So we're there. We have a full education team. We have a support team. We have customer success managers, and all of these groups are just there to support you. And once we actually onboard people, we have an incredible onboarding team that actually literally handholds like all the way through, sets up the whole dashboard from services to your employees to your schedules. So it's really turnkey for the customers coming over. You actually don't do anything yourself outside of communicating with us and making sure that we have all the information we need to get you all set up there. So we understand how insanely busy managers are and how it would be impossible to make switches like that if we didn't support them that way. So we're totally there for you through that. Yeah.
So I have a question. The system that I'm currently using has been an absolute nightmare to learn. Like worth getting a new system that would work better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
don't even know
So, well, I'll tell you why here. So, and I didn't know this. So I used something else. I won't mention their name, but I used something else. I've used pretty much all of the people that you can think about, all the companies. I grew up on it, have tried on all of it, and I was always like the go-to person that would like learn it quickly and then try and teach everybody else. Now, Boulevard has been by far one of the easiest tools I've ever had to learn. I had a great team of receptionists when I was at my previous employer, and I actually used it as a customer myself. So that's how I actually fell in love with it and came over. And so when I brought it into the businesses that I was running, I had this like great little day set up with my team where I was like, okay, I'm gonna order some food. I know this is a big change. Everyone's freaked out. We'll all like do like a couple hours together. We'll learn it. They came, they ate the food, learned it in like under an hour, and then like left me. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was good, right? They were happy. They're still using it today. They know it probably better even than I do working at the company, because everyone knows their own tips and tricks. But the best thing about even, what I do here at Boulevard is I create the education around it with an amazing team of people that do that. So we have a full academy that has all of the webinars included. They're on demand. You can watch them on your phone. You can watch them on a computer. They could do it at home if they really needed to. We have complete how-tos, and we even have an option to do advanced training where someone will actually sit with you one-on-one and teach you how to use the platform and talk about like, okay, talk to me about your workflow. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? I'm going to show you how to do every single one of those things on Boulevard. So there's a lot of hand-holding to learn this. And the reason why we do this is because when our tool is used accurately, we can increase services by 16%. We can increase gratuity by 24%. And my favorite one is we can reduce phone calls by 56%. And that was kind of a scary one when I first heard it, because I was like, wait, I want my phone to be busy, right? So I was like, oh my God, no, I'm okay, right? But then I realized that was an amazing thing, because all of a sudden my receptionist could actually pay attention to the client in front of them. They could actually manage the books. They could upsell things. They could sell product. The place was cleaner. People were happier. It was less chaos, less background noise, all of that. So reducing the phone calls actually allows these folks to run the business a lot better. And I remember what it's like to be on those phones. It's not an easy job that they're doing, like, doing the like 1 minute, like the whole, like, why not just be ready, like, hey, welcome, come on in, let me go ahead and get a rub for you, right? I hate walking into a place and seeing the stressed out receptionist on the phone trying to do everything. We've all been there, and it's not a warm, well, I've worked in salons my whole life, and I'll walk into a new place like, oh my God, like anxious when all of that's going on, because I'm like, I just want to like jump in and help them, right? So it's really important that we're putting those tools up to support them in that way. So there's like a bunch of other cool stats with Boulevard too. Like we also reduce our no-shows by 71%, which I absolutely love that one. We can save cards on file. We can charge for missed appointments. And that's totally up to you how you do that. How you charge, when you charge, what you charge. We leave that up to you, but we give you the technology to be able to do that, right? So all of a sudden no one's canceling or missing the appointments because they're now being held accountable for it. So there's been some really, really awesome developments with our customers on that. Yeah, go ahead.
No show or no call policy set for every hairstylist, so
absolutely.
they can make sure they come to them.
Absolutely. Everyone should have some sort of cancellation or reschedule policy, and that should be 24 to 48 hours. I'd even go for 48, because how easy is it to turn someone around in a day to fill that spot, right? So it's important. So and you support yourself by doing that, by making sure the communications go out to your clients, right? So when someone books on Boulevard, immediately they get an email letting them know their date, their time, their service, and their cancellation policies included in there.
What
Yeah.
about the price, where it's like
That's a
half price or?
Oh, that's a great question. So it really depends. I've seen a variety, and it really will depend on your business, what you're doing, and how well you know your clients, and what you feel like is fair for your time. I've seen it as simple as like a flat dollar amount where any missed appointment is $25, $50, whatever it is. I've seen it at 50%, and as you get busier, as you're super booked and really highly productive, I've seen it all the way up to 100%, as it should be. right? As it should be. Like if you have earned that, like you earned that, right? So, and I've seen it so cutthroat where they're like, okay, you missed your 11 o'clock, you want to come in for the 3, you're going to pay for the missed appointment and you're going to pay for the new one, right? Because time is money. That's what we're doing. And that's what I tell everyone with the prices they're paying. I'm not paying X amount for a haircut. You are paying me for the education, the effort, the customer service, the experience, the clientele, the whole thing. It's the whole experience. So whenever anyone would be like, how could you like sell haircuts at that price or do that kind of thing? I'm like, I'm not selling haircuts. I'm selling an experience is what I'm doing. Right? That it's time, it's everything that goes into it. So that's what's really important here. And that's why the cancellation policy is just as important. And then over time, people really do start to respect that, you know? So any other questions on that before we jump in? Yeah. Oh yeah, we have some text options too. So in Boulevard, we actually have something called a contact center, which I absolutely love. It looks just like iMessage on an iPhone, and it lives in each client profile. So you can jump in the client profile, you can go to our little messaging tool, but it's all in one dashboard. We're not like some of the other companies where it's like a completely different tool that we're using for text messaging. This is all in one here. So you can see all of that, and we'll save that. So if someone, you know, has texted you dates and times that they're trying to book or whatever, you know, you can see that information, and you can see each user that's like texting them. Yeah.
Do you have an option for multiple locations?
Absolutely. We can definitely do multiple locations. So I've always worked at multiple locations, and Boulevard has been able to support that. And what I love about that is we create one profile. So if I'm popping up at the downtown location, you can see that information in the uptown location. Because I think something that really hinders our client experience is sometimes when, you know, I've been a loyal client of downtown and then I happen to be uptown in a work meeting and I pop in and they're like, welcome, and they act like I've never been there. And I'm like, I know your whole other team across town, like I'm a loyal person, right? So you're able to say like, oh my gosh, welcome, I know you've never been to this location, we see you downtown all the time, like come on in, and immediately like enhance that client experience where like I feel welcome, I feel part of the family, I know what I'm doing here as a client, like this is why I come to a business like this, because of how they treat me. So it's really important there. And same thing with like gift cards, we can see all of that information, it stays really fluid in one client profile, so we don't have like 3 different profiles for the same client on 3 different locations. So a lot cleaner on that front. Yeah.
So is there a way to block off certain services? Like we only have certain people that do esthetician stuff, certain people that do waxing or
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. If you do a mix of things, but your neighbor is only an esthetician and someone else is a nail technician, we can book for all of that. We can account for all of that. And even taking it one step further, if I do my haircuts in 45 and she does it in an hour, we can also account for that as well. And the great thing is if I have a super difficult client that takes me 2 hours to do, I can also save it specifically for that client as well, which is awesome. And everyone's got a discounted client, right? So someone who started with us when we were like a baby in beauty school that pays like $12. So we can even save that price for that particular client. And what's even cooler about that is when they go online to book, they see their own price. They don't see the standard price. Yeah, it's awesome. So that's what like drove me crazy about online booking, because I'm like, these clients don't know what they're doing, right? Like just because they come to us, they don't know how to book or do none of that stuff. So I would see like haircuts before their base color, and Boulevard corrects all of that. They actually will go in and say, no, the haircut blow dry needs to be at the end of this appointment. It doesn't matter how she picked it. We're gonna go ahead and fix it on the schedule and put it in for the right time. So these are the things that allow me to start booking online, because before that, we were doing like 200 calls a day. Yeah, it was like a rodeo, right? Like it was like Wild Wild West trying to get everyone to book the right way. So at that point, you know, on like the management side, I can't get burned at the stake by my service providers because their books are messed up, because I'm trying to like create more time for everyone else, you know. So it's really important that these tools actually support our industry. So it's a really big one. So we're gonna jump into a quick little customer spotlight here. This is one of our multi-location businesses. They're Lords and Ladies out in Pennsylvania. They're a salon and they do some med spa services as well. And this is a company that has utilized tools specifically for our industry. So they use Boulevard, they absolutely love it. And for their recruitment and retention, they've used a tool called Canvas Me. If you are either looking for folks to join your salon, if you're looking for a new salon to go to, or overall you're just curious about it, check them out. It's canvasme.com. Canvas as in like paint canvas, me.com. So you can actually create a profile for your business or even yourself and start to look at some open job opportunities, other businesses that are looking for people. And they're gorgeous like sites. There's like pictures and everything, so you can actually get to know this business. If you've ever been on Craigslist looking for a job, it's extremely daunting and sometimes terrifying. So it's like not a place for people like us to be looking for work in our industry. We all know that one. So just like Boulevard, we're starting to see some recruitment tools that are actually built for us, that actually make sense in how we are looking for new team members and how they actually find us. So we're gonna watch a quick little video and listen to her talk about some of her experience there.
My name is Ashley Rivera, and I have been in the industry for 17 years. I was behind the chair for 11 of those years, and I loved every second of it. And then one day I was out for a run and had this idea of recruiting, and we had 6 locations at the time. And the idea kind of spun into a position, and 7 years later, here I am in it. And it's really evolved. So 2015, I started to create a lot of relationships with beauty schools and kind of get into the role itself, and every year it evolves. I think we all really have a hard time finding the right person. And like for me, that was my biggest struggle from the time I took the job, because I actually wanted to hire everyone. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, of course you need a job. You can come work for us. Yes, of course, everybody can come work for us. Yeah. And realizing that, no, you're not focused on who this person is. And once I started to really think about who is this person and how do they fit into our culture and how do they fit into our values. So I think it's really important to know who you are as a company before you start getting out there and recruiting people to come work for you. Knowing who you are is 1000% very important. And then, beyond that, making sure that that person is the right fit. I think going back to the human side of things, that I didn't realize how scary it was for students to get a job or to just put themselves out there. And that's been an eye-opener for me. And how can I be more I don't want to use the word human again, but how can I be more into what they're into? So how can I get on their level and just kind of make them feel more welcome in our location? So we actually came up with a shadowing program, and so no pressure, and kind of just come in, see what it's like for a couple hours and shadow and see what the environment is like, because I think it's important for them to interview us too. Yes. And so that was huge. And I felt like as soon as we started to break those walls down and explore that worked out really well. Any way that they can get hours, I'm all about it. Currently in our state of Pennsylvania, we have what's called, for VOTEX, they have a pilot program, and they're able to send seniors into our locations, and they actually can be mentored by our staff, our stylists, and they actually can earn hours, clinic hours in our salon. So that's been absolutely incredible. I mean, the experience that these students get is just awesome. So I'm hoping that like every school can do that, but currently our VOTEX are doing it. And as soon as I heard about it, I was like, well, we are doing that. And we actually ended up being the first in the area to allow the students to come here, and it's been really cool. Definitely Canvas me. So it was a little bit of a learning curve at first, but because you're so used to one way, right? And so once we brought them in, I was like, this has to happen. This we have to make it happen. So it was fun. We got actually virtually, we got all of the schools on like an open house. It was kind of fun. Like I called it like Wine Wednesday or something. And we just chatted with the schools and actually brought Canvas Me on to talk to them about why they started their company and why we chose to go with them and why their students definitely need to get on there and be a part of it. So it was a great kind of like kickoff to using it, and I continue to use it in career fairs. They make it super easy. Videos, constant videos. I mean, just if you've ever been on the site, it's a portfolio, just kind of explaining yourself and who you are in a very creative way. So it's been really neat.
If you could tell anyone, it's someone who's just starting out their career, like if you could give them a piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh my goodness.
Good
I love
one.
it. Don't stop being creative. Don't stop dreaming. And just keep going. Like there's going to be hard days. I mean, gosh, I remember lots of hard days, no matter if you're behind the chair or if you're managing a salon or if you're an owner of a salon, there's going to be hard days. Everyone has a challenge, but if you just keep pushing through it, everything is temporary. And, I always say that, like, and I feel like it's something that really resonates with me. Anything that's hard for me at the moment, I'm like, it's temporary. You're gonna get through it. It's fine. But also realize that your happiness and the joy, it's also temporary too. So enjoy the moments and be present and really like feel those feelings, because everything doesn't last forever. So I just think keep going and you'll always make it to the other side.
Perfect. So what Ashley was describing there was creating programs that welcome potential new hires within her business. And that's extremely important because this allows someone to also figure out if you are the right fit for them. So in that, she had mentioned some trial and shadow periods. And this is something I have a lot of experience with, where I would interview people to come work within my business and they would like kill it on the interview. They would be amazing. I'd be like, okay, this is the one. And then they would show up for their trial the next day, like, do you have a phone charger? And I'd be like, right, this is a little hot mess, but okay, let's just see what happens. But in those trial periods, I was able to figure out like, okay, this person is not for us. We'll pay them for the day, we'll let them go, and we'll cut our losses now, and I will spend more time looking for the right person, because oftentimes than not, that person is gonna create way more havoc within your business, and it's easier to have that upfront, kind of awkward conversation versus having them drag a mess through your actual business there. So that's really important. So it's not just for you to figure out if it's the right fit for your business, but also for them. Because if they know right away, like, hey, this isn't for me, listen to them, believe them the first time, let them go. Like, there's no point in trying to convince someone to stay, especially when they know it's not right for them. Now, technology can create more opportunities. She mentioned a lot. Oh yeah, go ahead. No, you're good. No, you're good.
Question, how soon before, because I know you said you had a fast turnaround at the desk when you were training, so how soon do you let them go and leave?
On their own?
Yeah, because I've been doing a month and I feel like it's either pass or fail. And I feel like sometimes a month is long.
It's a long time.
So I don't know, like, is 2 weeks good or?
I always went with a 2-week process, right? Within the first week, you're gonna, like by the end of the first week, you should know if this person's getting it or not, right? There's been times where I've extended things out to a 3rd week. I once had someone who took a little bit of a longer time to train, but that ended up being one of our most loyal and like really stuck to it and never went outside of protocol and things like that, where I was like, okay, I'm glad I took the time, but you'll need the discernment to figure out like, is this someone that I invest in? And you're gonna wanna look on to those like characteristics that we talked about in the beginning, right? Is this someone who's actually like leaned in, trying their hardest, or are they kind of being like, whatever, we're people, right? We get into this for the people element. Like you can feel that from someone. So if you feel like that effort is worth putting in to give someone that extra time, great, but it should be 2 weeks. really should be no more than 2 weeks, because that's a lot on you too. Is it slowly killing you? Because
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
you breathe, girl. Yeah, no, trust me. I know some of that probably is like technology stuff and them learning, a learning curve, but it's 2022. It should be easy enough for them to start booking appointments in a day. Most people that I'm training Boulevard on, within the first couple hours, I can get them on the phone doing a call. Like in our tool, for example, we have something called smart scheduling. So I just put in the client's name, I choose their service, and it does all the work. It'll tell me this appointment, we'll keep it back to back. Here's that time slot. Here's one filling a gap. Here's what's better for it. Like it does all the thinking. So then, I'm less time actually training someone. So then it's more about like, this is how we handle our clients, this is how we sound, this is what's important to our business, less about like click here, click there, and doing that. Like if you're spending a lot of time on that, like that's rough, on top of having to teach them like, hey, this is how we speak to our clients and all of that, So I would say if the technology is the hard part, then explore something new for sure. So as Ashley mentioned there, like they were doing a lot of virtual programs. So they were actually looking for new hires through virtual new open houses. So they would send that out to schools and actually let them join a Zoom link and get to know some of the people who work there, the businesses. So I would definitely recommend creating relationships with the schools around you and offering that. Going in, especially if you're a service provider, they are hungry for content. You guys remember what it's like to be in beauty school? It's like painful, right? It's boring. And a lot of times it's not very inspiring. So it's people like us that can actually go in there and inspire some of those students, and then they become potential receptionists or providers or assistants, apprentice, all of that. So create that relationship early. So Ashley has a podcast. I just wanted to plug her real quick. If you're interested in listening to her, she's so sweet, and she's got some really cool people on there sharing advice along the way, especially if you're starting out your career or you're just on your own. It's so easy to feel lonely in that. Like, feel free to connect here, connect with me. I'm going to share my info at the end. Create a community for yourself, especially if you're a sole prop. You got to find that space where you can have these conversations with either other owners, managers, whatever it is. So really look for that community. So she's got an awesome podcast that she's sharing with a lot of awesome guests that are coming through. All right. So just as I mentioned before, Boulevard, we have roughly about 25,000 people on the platform, and we're servicing over 2,000 locations. If you have further questions for me, I'm going to hang out for a minute, but you can also find me down there, and I would love to get to know each and one of you and see if we can help you any step of the way. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate you sticking with me. So I'll see you soon.